Hello, fantasy football fans. Welcome to another edition of Getting Defensive. My name is Gary, aka the IDP Tipster. Joining me today is Roto King Craig, right?
Close enough. Yep. Roto Heat.
Roto Heat, my bad.
That's all right.
And then
it's Friday.
Dynasty Trip. Both of you guys have been on. I really appreciate you coming on again today. Unfortunately, some terrible news. Roxanne lost a family member last night, so she's not able to join us this morning. Our prayers and thoughts and anything else we can send her way is, what we're trying to do. But she'll be in contact. She'll probably be off for a little while. I just personally got back myself, so it's kind of weird because I just lost a mother-in-law. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and helping me knock some of the rust off today, and despite not having Roxanne with us.
No problem. That's what we're here for, and glad to help out however I can.
Sweet. I'll tell you what, we're just going to jump right off and stuff right before we get started. Always like to start up with just a little bit of a warm-up topic, and I was asking Craig and Tripp what they thought of Sleeper, or if they had played on Sleeper. Actually, my direct question was if they've been drafting on Sleeper, I think, before this year. And it was interesting. Tripp, you was saying you hadn't been a big fan?
Right. Yeah, I've played on Sleeper, I think, since it started, which is just a couple of years ago, and joined on there with the then current hosts of the IDP Nation pod. They had a listener league, and I just jumped in with them. And a couple of challenges came up. One is that we thought they would have the specific positions, DT, DE, CB, safety, and it's not really set up for that. And then the second thing that I find really challenging is that the way, because of a lot of players have dual position designations, your list of players, especially if you're looking on the phone, is just all jumbled up. And I find it really challenging to go through and try to set a lineup with all that. And so those are some of the things that I've dealt with IDP. I know the folks that play offense only feel like it's very user friendly and they like it a lot. And I can see that if you have 15 players in your roster.
Right.
But I don't find it I find it a little more challenging for 50-man roster.
Right. They have some upgrades going on. I don't know. I know of a few of them, and they've changed a few things. It looked like they're kind of heading in the right direction. I don't know, Craig. What do you think?
Yeah, they've been, really overhauling their system over the past couple of years to try to get things to be more user-friendly, get things changed to be how the user that's going to be drafting teams, doing mock drafts, whatever, want it to be. They've added a lot of things like the third round reversal is an option that you can have in mock drafts even. And it's really nice to see a company that is receptive, talking to people. They're active on social media a ton to try to get information and feelings from people. And, for a company that young, there's going to be growing pains. So the fact that they're at least willing to make changes and try to go the way people want is nice. But, for long-term viability, I think it probably is another year or two out, especially for IDP things to get that stuff cleared up.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly the plans that I've been relayed, some of the news or some of the stuff that they've talked about is a couple of years. I never played. I think I played on them like 4 or 5 years ago, hated it. And I found that about 95% of the people that I'm trying to help out here and ask me questions are playing on Sleeper. So, I was always aggravated with it. Of course, we're all a little bit older fellas, so maybe we can't do that thing on the app. Maybe we just don't have that skill set to really, whiz through that. I'm looking forward to see what the changes bring. I'm moving tipster leagues there. I'm all for it if anybody's willing to do it. And Sleeper's got, they definitely got the format for it. So if they can help IDP and, improve their IDP on their thing, I'm looking forward to trying it out this year. Well, I'll tell you what, cool. I just wanted to, warm up a little bit there. So let's go ahead and dive into these on the clock. Unless you guys want to add anything else about Sleeper.
No,
nope.
All right. It covers it.
All right, we're going to go. Roxanne was nice enough she had written all these out, so we're just going to roll with this. Only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add is see. So you're looking at let's go with your second linebacker. So you're in one of those instances where you're going to be able to pick back to back. You're either at the end of the round or whatever. You're looking at your linebackers. You've got Zach Cunningham, Bobby Wagner, or Joe Scoobert. Sorry. Anyways, you got to assume those bigger guys went first, so whoever you pick first, you're now getting ready to add your second starter to them. Anyone?
Go ahead, Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of these three, I'm going to take Cunningham. He's the younger guy, and he really doesn't have a whole lot around him on that defense. That whole team seems to be in a rebuild, and we know that a lot of times when those defenses that don't appear that they're going to be high level, they can be scored on easier, which then leads to more running later in games, especially when you look at that offense that seems most people feel isn't going to be putting up a lot of numbers. He put up a ton of tackles last year, and he's been progressing each of his years in the league. And, Wagner, I like. He's the second one on this list for me because it's sort of the same thing where he's more proven over a longer period of time than Cunningham. He doesn't have as much around him. But, even last year, if you sort of look at that progression, I think Cunningham's going to be right there with him, if not higher than him this year. And Scobert, I like too, but with that defense, Jack improved last year, and I think you're probably going to see more of that this year. So he has more competition for tackles, and that defense is probably actually going to end up being better than the Texans this year in terms of the pieces that they have, the young guys coming around. So for these three, give me Cunningham.
What do you think, Trip?
Well, I'll mix it up a little bit. I would go Wagner, and I know that might be a bit of a hot take because he finished last of these three in total points from last year. But when I look at the overall numbers that they're putting up year over year, I don't see big margins in what they've been able to put on the stat sheet. And one thing that we have counted on from Joe Schobert over the last couple of years is the ability to create turnovers. And I don't know if that's an ability or if that's just being at the right place in the right time.
Right.
And so I'm not going to count on those half a dozen turnovers from Schobert. Zach Cunningham put up ridiculously efficient numbers last year from a tackle perspective. He played 200 fewer snaps than Wagner did and 100 fewer snaps than Schobert did, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. How did he outscore him? And in part, what Craig just said a second ago is that defense could not get off the field. They were getting run over, and he was able to pile up a lot of tackles because there were a lot of tackles to be made. They were getting worked by a lot of other teams. Could that happen again? Yeah, I think it's reasonable to think that it could. But where I'm at with both Cunningham and Schobert is I think that there's risk of them coming off the field that I don't see with Wagner. Wagner will be paired out there with Jordan Brooks, and he'll be a full-time player. Cunningham lost snaps last year to Tyrell Adams in dime. And Tyrell Adams, of course, is in Buffalo.
And now they've stacked that depth chart at the linebacker position. If I remember right, didn't they just add like 3 or 4 guys?
Oh, yeah. They just piled up bodies.
Veterans.
Perksy and Kevin Pierre-Paul and Joe Thomas. And, they just loaded up guys. And so I'm not here to predict that Cunningham will lose snaps to those guys, but considering that one coaching staff already saw fit to pull him off the field in dime, I don't think it's impossible that a second coaching staff will feel the same. Now, when it comes to Schobert, I have the same concern. Again, I'm not predicting that Schobert will come off the field. He looks like he'll be the defensive play caller in that defense. But one thing is that with the addition of Joe Cullen as defensive coordinator, I think that they're a little more likely to play man coverage this year than they did last. And Jack is better in man coverage. And so I could see Schobert coming off the field in dime and leaving Jack out there.
Interesting.
There are more and more teams that are willing to take the green dot off the field, or at least, obviously practically switch it to another player. It's just this idea that you've got to have your play caller be a full-time player seems to be subsiding a little bit. Maybe it's a bit out of date. I'm not sure the mechanics of switching that dot over, but I could see that happening. Again, not predicting it. I have Jack well behind Schobert in my ranks, but I think that there's more risk there with Cunningham and Schobert because I don't think either are exceptional players, but I think Wagner is the better player, and I'm going to stick with the talent.
Yeah. I'd have to hope that my first pick, since this would be my second linebacker, I would hope. I mean, Bobby Wagner definitely could have been in that range. Assuming that Blake Martinez or somebody like that I might prefer, I feel secure with them. I think I might swing for the fence with Zach for a year. I don't know. They're just going to be so bad, right? I mean, I mean, I like Pierre Lewis over there. The joining, not really. I don't think anybody should be excited about. What was the Green Bay dude signed
Kirksey.
over there? Kirksey, yeah, he can't stay on the field, so his best role is part time. And then there's always Wagner. You can't argue that. So, but as my second one, I think I might go Cunningham. I think Scobert. You mentioned Jack. Yeah, I think he might have. His ceiling isn't as high as what it used to be as a Brown. It's just I don't think it's there. He's not the same situation. So that was a good one. I think we all kind of came together on that Bobby or Cunningham. I don't think Scobbert's going to cut it. I think that was probably the best consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. You guys settle down. You two are just too lively, right?
Need more coffee this morning.
Right.
It's a long day yet. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We're going to move on to the edge rushers. We're just go with. We're going to go first off the board. You're looking at Chase. She's got Chase Young, Cameron Jordan, or Nick Bosa.
Who you got, Craig?
Yeah. So for redraft type of situation, I am going to, and this was probably one of the closer ones that I looked on here, but I'm going to go with Chase Young, followed closely by Cam Jordan. And I'm going to sort of go backwards here and make the case for Cam Jordan. I mean, he's just been a model of consistency throughout his career. He's missed one regular season game his rookie year. He's played in all 16, the rest of them. He's putting up consistent numbers pretty much throughout. I mean, the sacks are going to vary because you see that, but he's usually close to double-digit sacks. He's like 45, 50-some tackles with 30, 40 assists, double-digit tackles for a loss. I just see a higher upside with what is around Chase Young and with the talent that he has a year under his belt. I think, we saw flashes of it last year with all those pieces they have on that defensive line. It brings all of them up, all of their potential, because, if you want to just go focus on Chase, that's fine. You got Sweat, you got Allen, you got Payne. These are all people that have proven to be able to get to the quarterback. So I don't think they have that luxury of just focusing on him. And then that talent with a improved offense, which I know there's some people out there that aren't as big a fans of Fitzpatrick, and I'm not saying he's going to set the world on fire, but I think he's going to be better than what they had overall last year. And then that's going to create more opportunities to rush the passer for those guys. So it was, again, the closest one for me, but I'm going to take Young slightly over Jordan for 1 year.
I'll tell you, Gary, I'll tell you, if you want some more energy, I got 2 4-year-olds downstairs which have yet to really rear up their other heads.
Bring them on up, man. Bring them on up.
So,
set them on the lap.
Yeah, if we want more noise, you might regret it.
Right.
Look,
you asked for it, you got it, right, Gary? Right.
That's right. As far as these, I'm going to agree with Craig. I'm going to take Chase Young too. I think that he has a really high upside. He really started to show out what he could do late in the year last year. I like that he's out there with Montez Sweat and John Allen. I like that they have the full defensive line where you can't sleep on any – if you're an offensive line, you can't sleep on any of those pass rushers. You can't just – you take a play off. You're going to get scorched if you do. I look at Cam Jordan, and his numbers were down a bit last year. I think it's in part because they just – the caliber of player around Jordan is not the same as the caliber of player around Chase Young. And then they lost Trey Hendrickson. I think that Trey Hendrickson scored a bunch of sacks because of the attention that was necessary to pay to Cam Jordan. Hendrickson leaves, and now they bring in Peyton Turner, a first rounder. He's more of an edge setter, in my opinion, and that puts Marcus Davenport out of the speed rusher. So does Davenport have an Armstead-like resurgence, or is he just continuing?
Yeah, Davenport's really got to do something. Yeah. It's hard to believe. They traded up a couple of years ago, right? Big time, paid for him to get him in the second or something. Yeah, Davenport needs to get something done.
Yeah, he moved up from I think 27 to 14 and gave up the next year's first rounder to do it. Coming up to the end is pretty shocking. And
And
he has not paid off that investment for sure.
I got to be honest, when it comes to Trey Henderson, I think he'll do okay in Cincinnati, but I don't think he's actually the player that he put on the field last year. I think that, they had a large rotation in there, but as a group, I think that Trey actually benefited from playing. Everybody else was being focused on except for him. I think it opened up a lot of opportunity. I don't think that if it was a normal season, if it would have went through for what we see in the past, I don't think he could have got half those sacks. So, I'm skeptical. It's just kind of so. I like Jordan, but I think I'm going to have to go with you two both on Young. I mean, the upside, at least. Nick wasn't even mentioned. Nick Bosa wasn't even mentioned. I think it's all injury concern, right? Right. So
I would say about Bosa, my issue with Bosa is coming off the ACL, and it's a risk factor. I don't think he has less upside than Chase Young. I do worry a little bit about the interior pressure. No Buckner anymore, obviously, and where does that interior pressure come from to complement him?
Right.
And even Armstead himself, is Armstead any good, or is that a flash in the pan? And then finally, the risk factor with the ACL is there are lots of players that have nagging compensatory soft tissue issues coming back, and could that slow them out the gate? And that's just a slight issue.
It usually takes a while. I mean, shoot, All right. So that was a good one. Let's see. So we're going to skip on down just to straight. I'm going to call them interior defensive linemen. We'll just go. I'm gonna guess where you're getting your second starter. Stephen Tuitt, Grady Jarrett, or Kenny Clark. I think Tripp, your turn to go first, maybe.
All right. That'd be great. I'll take Tuitt here, and it's really close for me between Tuitt and Jarrett. I really like Jarrett. I'm a Clemson homer. I've liked Jarrett for a long time. I think he's a good player, but I also think he's in a new defense, and we just don't know how to fit in that. He was the designated interior disruptor in Dan Quinn's defense for a long time. Very productive in that role. Slightly undersized, which is why he was a mid-round pick instead of a high pick, and one of the reasons anyhow. And will they ask him in more multiple fronts to do some two-gapping, or move around a little bit in a way that doesn't capitalize on what he's best at? I don't know. That remains to be seen, and maybe that's
I think a poor line around Jarrett really hurt him last year. They just key off that offensive line, key off on Grady, and there's nothing else there on the line. I mean,
Stephen
Means for 2 games or something. Yeah,
right. No, he's tripled his career sack total, and he's 30 years old.
Right. And it's not looking any better this year.
No,
it's not. That defensive line is. Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. You're good. Right. We're of a common mind there, and you make a good point about the talent around him too. And then Tuitt is a guy that put up big numbers last year, playing opposite Cam Hayward, and it's more of a kind of a classic 3-4 in that he's playing some 3-tech and some 5-tech, but that defense is potent in their pass rush, and I'm confident that they can replicate that, at least enough of it to make Tuitt a good play. Clark is interesting, and that word out of Green Bay is he's not going to be relegated to the nose quite as much. So they might move him around a little bit, so there's probably a bit of upside there. But other than one big season, he hasn't really put up the same kind of numbers that these other two guys have year over year.
They need to free him up. They need to get him off that nose altogether. I think. He's a beast of a guy. He's just one of those. He's not talked about enough. I don't think how athletic he is as a big guy.
Yeah.
What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I'm not very going to be exciting on this one either. Given that there's not going to be a whole lot of fighting, but I mean, the first name that came to mind was Tuitt when I was going through these, and the numbers back that up in terms of overall general consistency. That defensive line is going to, sort of be the same that it was last year. He's another guy that, outside of, last year, he's still putting up, 4 or 5 sacks with really nice tackle sets and tackles for a loss. And I like having consistency.
I think he just turned like 26, didn't he? He's just now really hitting his prime. I think
he's just turned 28.
Tuitt is?
Yeah.
Is he? All right. Well, still, it's prime.
Yeah, he's still
I mean,
young enough, and Hayward's definitely older. So
yeah.
and they still
Obviously,
have
you're a bigger span, right?
Watt to worry about there on the outside. In terms of other players to focus on.
Yeah.
To the point about Jared, I really like him too. And if Dan Quinn was still there, he might be the top guy here. But to your guys' point, there's nothing around him. I mean, they have Fowler, who, outside of one really good year as an edge rusher, hasn't done much in his career. They have another guy, Barkevius Mingo, was a high draft pick that has bounced around the league that just hasn't done much. So, he's going to be someone that defenses are going to be able to focus on. And I have questions with the new, coach there. With Julio gone, how much is that offense going to be able to replicate what they did before? I know people are in love with Kyle Pitts, and I am too for Dynasty, but certainly with the history of what players with his sort of caliber at tight end,
it just smells like a rebuild.
See it.
I mean, realistically, is Atlanta rebuilding? I mean, they didn't do anything. Yeah, they actually, they they liquidated talent. So I don't think they're expecting to win. I really don't.
I think they're probably hoping to, given that they still have Matt Ryan around for a year or two. And, if they were looking to rebuild, I think they probably should have taken a quarterback. I know that was a hot debate over Pitts, but.
Well, they just didn't do much on defense. I guess I don't see how, if you can't stop anybody, I don't care how big of a gunslinger you got, that defense is going to give up a lot of points.
Yeah. They're going to have to sneak in as a wild card because I don't see any way that they're going to beat Tampa if that team is remotely healthy. And New Orleans has question marks. Panthers have question marks, but there's still going to be teams that they're going to have to deal with. They're not like bottom tier teams like the Lions might be or something. So,
what do you think if Clark moves around? What kind of say he would get off the nose? Think that would be worth a late flyer there? I mean, he's a beast. I think he's been keyed off on. They're the same situation. You got two nice edge rushers, but that interior defensive line, they're just Lowry and just they can key off on them, I guess. All right, well, that was a good one.
I got concerns about too. I mean, living up in Wisconsin, not a Packer fan, but I don't think Rodgers is back this year. And I think that's just going to completely change stuff. And
you just sank my battleship, man. I drafted him early. I'm sitting there waiting in a money league like, come on. Will they get like 4 o'clock today or something that locks that down or something if they're technically not going to play?
If he's going to opt out or not, he has to by the time today. And it's just one of those things where I think he's the type of person that isn't going to back down. And I don't think that front office, without some official team owner or someone to back them, feels like they're in a position where they're able to just back down and cave and what that's going to do to the fan base.
He probably makes more money with Allstate. Or whatever.
Well, the commercials, and if he did Jeopardy, I mean, he'd make a ton outside of football anyway. So, I don't think
Celebrity Dateline. No, what's that date show? Survivor. Let's see him on Survivor or something. Yeah. He's got the money. He's not worried about it. So, sank my battleship, though. I'm holding out hope.
Well, it's just a guess. I have no insider knowledge.
Right. I
was thinking I'm a pessimistic bunch.
Right. That's funny. All right, we're going to swing back up to the top and try and get at least another one or two. If you guys are cool, we got another 15, 20 minutes or something like that. Let's go. This one I'm just curious. We're going to make it your first linebacker off the board. Devin White, Blake Martinez, Jalen Smith, a redraft. Let's go with a redraft here.
I've been playing them all redraft just in case.
That was my assumption.
Well, I thought it might make a difference in this particular 3 is why I wanted to make sure. Right. I thought maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I can go first on this one. You call me crazy. I love Blake Martinez. I think he's consistent, and he's going to continue to do it. I love Devin White for his potential. I don't think he can repeat last year, not this year. I'm going Jalen Smith, man. But I've always given credit to Jalen Smith for the last couple of years. It boils down to, last year Van Der Esch was supposed to send Smith the to heartache. The year before that, but Smith has just consistently, led the team in tackles. So he had a down year, a little bit poor performance last year, but he's a Jerry Jones, or what's his name? Yeah, the owner, Cowboys owner. It's his guy. He paid him. He selected him. He's not going nowhere. He's getting paid right now. So I like Jamin Smith to go ahead, and I think I can maybe get a little higher ceiling out of him. Maybe. But it would be actually close between him and Martinez. I'm not going to wait on White. I want to see it. I want to see it in a redraft. I want to see it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
So you're a Cowboys fan too?
All right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't have anything down here. It's all upstairs. Yeah, Cowboys fan living in Packer country. It's always fun.
You're a Packers fan. Or Cowboys fan. Okay, cool.
Yep. And it is close. I agree between Martinez and Jalen for me. A dynasty, to me, it's clearly White because of what he's shown. And then the players around him, sort of lowers that in redraft for me. But Martinez doesn't have a whole lot around him, and that's what pushes it for me to him over Smith. And I realize, he is Jerry's guy. They've put up similar numbers, but there's just more overall linebacking talent in that linebacker core for Dallas, which does scare me a bit, where Blake just doesn't have that situation. I know they drafted Ojulari, but he's more of a pass rusher, and I have to see how much he gets on the field. But it really is just Blake there for the Giants, which gives him the edge to me.
While we're on this real quick trip, let me ask you guys, who do you think is going to play next to Martinez? What's that kid's name, Adams, or was that for the Houston? He played a little bit last year, had an outstanding game. I'm just curious who you think might end up getting that job next to Martinez.
Well, they had a guy, young guy, Tay Crowder.
Yeah, there it is.
1 or 2 games, and he got hurt right away. I mean, he looked pretty good in the one game he played, and then it was announced after the game that he tore something mid-game.
I was watching his snap counts towards the end of last year, and I don't know if he could come back and wasn't 100% or whatever, but their season was shot by then. So they didn't play him live, but I'm real curious who the leader might be. You got any idea, Craig?
I think it's going to be something they're going to figure out in camp. I mean, they got Crowder, they had Lorenzo Carter that played a bit, and then good old Reggie Ragland still hanging around. They have him in the second level, so I think it's just going to be whoever looks best in camp, and then in the preseason games, because I don't think there's a clear-cut guy right now. And Crowder did look good, but like you said, limited playing time coming off of injury. They're just going to have to see what he's able to do too.
Yeah. All right. So back to it. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that. I've been trying to figure that out here and there and checking in, and it's just a dog race, I guess. So Trip, who was you going to take?
Yeah, my top guy there is Martinez for the reason we just enumerated. We don't know who the heck the other inside linebacker is even going to play there. Martinez has been piling up tackles and primarily dime set packages for years now. And talk about upside. I mean, his upside is pretty sure he's been number 1 overall at least once with some big plays. But his high tackle volume keeps him in the top 5 perennially, and he has so little competition for tackles. I mean, the second guy there is basically Jabril Peppers as a tackle. Bring him down and lock him. He's effectively the second linebacker on that team. So, yeah, I wouldn't count any of those other linebackers jumping up there and being a big factor. I could see them trying to find a guy like Tay Crowder to step in and be more of a coverage player. I don't think Martinez is great in man coverage, which they kind of need out of the linebacker position. So I'm sticking with Martinez as far as the top choice. My second choice is Devin White. And I think probably everybody watching thinking, what? How is Devin White not first? But the thing is I don't think you can replicate 9 sacks. And Levante David is still there. He's a good player. Yeah. And so, I wouldn't pay the freight to pick up White in any drafts.
Not to mention the rest of that squad. I mean, it's just they're talented across. They're stacked in pure talent right now. So it'd be tough for White. Yep. If he does it, I'll be really impressed. Yeah. But maybe after David leaves.
Oh yeah, that's a different game. Then we'll see what the defense looks like at that point. But Jalen Smith, I'm off of him completely. He won't be on any of my rosters. There are too many guys there. you talk about whether or not Jerry and whether or not Jalen is Jerry's guy. I mean, there was rumors about him being cut over the offseason. It's like it wasn't financially possible to cut him. It was, but you wonder where those things come from, right? It seems like the Cowboys, as an employer, seem quick to throw their employees under the bus. Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith are all of a sudden persona non grata over the offseason based on BS. Is that because of Dallas media and Dallas being an overactive football city? Maybe. But what they did over the offseason is a vote of no confidence. They take Micah Parsons 12th overall. They use the 4th round pick on a linebacker in Jabril Cox, who most people agree slid in the draft. And they bring in Keanu Neal, and they say he's a weak side linebacker. But there's just an awful lot of guys there, and with Dan Quinn has a history of playing 2 full-time linebackers, and he has like 6 now. And it has nothing else, right? I mean, nothing at safety, nothing at D tackle, and they're talking about Parsons is playing some pass rush snaps. We'll see what that looks like. But if they line him up as like a base defensive end in a vanilla 4-2-5, I mean, he's going to get blown out. I mean, is he a guy that can rush from space and make some things happen? Sure, but he needs a complement on another player that they can mix and match with to disguise some looks. And to me, I would be surprised if Parsons didn't play full time, at least by the middle of the season, and to see where that's going. Could Vander Esch have a resurgence? That would cut into Smith's snaps, and I just think
I think we're probably betting the odds right now. Can he make it 5 games without hurting his neck? I mean, that's realistically. I mean, that's kind of that there it is. Who you betting on, him or Parsons? So I don't know what it is. I'm just going to ride that train, man. Jalen is just for. I know it's a gamble. But I would still stick with Jalen myself. I'd probably shoot myself in the foot.
We all have those guys.
I mean, right. Martinez probably, I don't know. But Devin White, he's troublesome. I mean, you can't plan on him right now. You can't. I don't know if he's Darius Leonard or not. Right. I mean, and if you look at Darius Leonard last year, if Darius Leonard would played the whole season, he was actually, I think, recording more on average a week in points. The only thing is he missed a couple of weeks. I think it's right there close. If he would have played that other 2 games, he would have led the league last year.
Well, I look at Darius Leonard's career point per game. His career point per game is still higher than Devin White's last season.
Yeah.
So, there are people saying, should we take Roquan and Devin ahead of Darius? Like, why?
Right. Well, Darius Leonard can be Darius Leonard with the Colts because of the team around him. You got Buckner, right? You got multiple ones in Tampa Bay. So, well, all right. You guys ready for another one?
Yeah, sir.
Sweet. Let's see here. I'm going to go. This is your. Let's go with your second defensive lineman, edge rusher. Actually, you got Leonard Floyd, Hassan Reddick, or Sam Hubbard.
I'll go first on this one since I went last time, and this is a group where I'm just holding my nose and picking one. With you. I'm not excited about any of these guys for this year, but the one I would have to take would be Reddick. It's interesting to see how he'll fit together with Brian Burns. I think the conventional wisdom is that he'll come in there and play opposite Brian Burns in a vanilla 4-2-5 or vanilla dime look, and the thing about that is that'll be super easy to run on if they do. Neither Burns. Burns I think got better last year, but he couldn't. The reason he lost time in his rookie year is because he couldn't set the edge, and that is in part because he dislocated his shoulder. But still, he's a pass rusher. The one thing that's interesting about the Panthers is they spin their Ds back a little bit and play some off-ball linebacker. And Reddick worked with Phil Snow in college at Temple doing exactly that. So he knows the defense. He'll at least, those aspects of it. And so he'll be an interesting fit that way. But the thing that we can't count on is both Burns and Reddick played a huge number of snaps last year on the same team. They can't do that together. they would just be eating into each other too much. There'll be too much need to have more of a traditional defensive end, get Yetur Gross-Matos some more snaps. And I think that neither of them will be able to replicate their tackle numbers from last year because of the snaps. That being said, you got Leonard Floyd, and Leonard Floyd I don't think was significantly better last year than he was with Chicago. I just think that he played in a better defense and was able to finish a lot more of his pass rush opportunities than he was in Chicago.
It doesn't hurt that he's standing next to Aaron Donald.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah. And you got Sam Hubbard, and I don't know what to make of Sam Hubbard. Part of me thinks he's a pretty good player, and I like what Cincinnati has done with their personnel. I mean, they bring in Larry Ogunjobi, and they'll have DJ Reader back, who I missed all the one game with injury last year, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And they bring Hendrickson in, and so that's not a bad-looking group at defensive end. And you have the two big guys pushing the pocket, and then that you should create some opportunities for sacks for Hubbard and for Hendrickson. But how much better do we want to bet the Bengals defense gets? Because it's been bad for years. So. But I do think it could be a little better. But even so, Reddick has shown the upside that I would choose out of these three.
What do you think, Craig? Who you got?
Yeah, Floyd is my bottom choice. He did all right his rookie year, and then like you said, last year was his first time in. With the Rams, and they had a nice defense overall. I don't know if they're going to be able to replicate that again. Their offense has the potential to be scoring more, which certainly would help them. But I just don't trust him. He has 2 good years out of 5 or whatever it is, and I know people are going to probably think, oh well, Reddick really only has 1 good year to it. Yeah, in terms of like creating sacks in that. But his tackle numbers throughout his career, even when he wasn't getting you sacks, at least it feels like it gives me a higher floor. Now, he is going to be there with the guys that you mentioned, like Burns, but it's not like he was sitting there with no one in Arizona, too. He had Chandler there on the other side. So even if he isn't getting you all that, I feel, for his ceiling for this year, his floor is going to be higher. And Hubbard, I really like. He'd be my second guy here. Because I think last year he was just bothered by injuries. He didn't start all the games that he did play. And if you'd looked for his first 2 years, it felt like he was going to take that leap, and it just didn't happen with that mess of a team and getting hurt. With hopefully more health around him and maybe some improved play, I think he could probably at least get back to where he was those first couple of years. So he'd be my second choice after Reddick.
Yeah, Hubbard's my go-to here. I do like Hubbard. I do like what he did in the past. I think that, like you just said, he played hurt last year when he did come back. They moved on from Dunlap. They moved him over there. He didn't do a lot last year. I expect him coming back healthy. I think that he takes a nice leap. I also like Reddick. I'm curious, is he going to end up playing the strong side linebacker position, outer edge? Do we have anything official where he's going to play in this scheme? Last I looked, now fellas do realize that I've been going for 10 days or so with this funeral stuff, so I might have missed something, but that worries me a little bit. I think it's really what boils down to is me seeing Hassan or Reddick struggle for a few years in Arizona. He was supposed to be a big thing when he come out. He's let down a lot of players. I'd like to see him do it again. I'm going to go with Hubbard. I think Hubbard showed more. And Floyd, same thing. I think Floyd would be a consistent guy, but if I'm trying to shoot a little higher for a harder swing, I think I'm going to go with Hubbard. Maybe see if I can hit double digits in sacks. I think he can get there. I'm hoping. Because I got him on a couple of rosters. That's when it counts, right?
That's right. That's what it's all about.
Right. Well, we can run. Let's see. We got like 2. We can run through this one real quick here. This is Jonathan Allen, Jeffrey Simmons, Veta Villa. How about your second interior defensive lineman? Anything exciting there?
For 1 year, I'm going to be taking Allen. We sort of talked about it with Chase Young, just the people there that are around him. Yeah, he had a down year last year if you look at it comparatively, but I don't think you're going to see that same guy have the down year all the time with the number of people that they have that you have to focus on. It was close with him and Simmons, but you've seen more out of Allen over time, and I know they added pieces around Simmons, like Dupree, and that linebacker core should be better, but the secondary is a mess, I think, and I don't really know what you're going to get out of Simmons. I have him in quite a few leagues, so I'm hopeful for him. Those are leagues where you need interior linemen, but I would take Allen over him this year, and Vita Vea is just a non-factor in this decision for me. He hasn't shown much throughout his career at all. Like we talked about with all those other pieces around him, I don't see him suddenly becoming a force this year in Tampa.
No.
Well, I'll go with the bat for Vita Vea for just a second. I think he's a good player. I think he showed out pretty well in the limited action last year. He lost a ton of games to injury, and he came back in the Super Bowl. And I thought he looked pretty good, even playing in a bit incapacitated. But he's more of a pocket pusher. He's a nose tackle, kind of like Kenny Clark. I think he has the potential to be as good as Kenny Clark, but you don't want to rely on a guy that's playing over center to put up big sack numbers in fantasy football.
Yeah.
But so he's clearly third for me. I had a tough time with the other two, Allen and Simmons. And I think where it comes down to me is that Allen is going to look at Matt Ioannidis coming back from injury. And there could be a much
I'm concerned about that.
With between the three of them, as Allen, Ioannidis, and Daron Payne. Whereas Simmons, he got some help. I mean, he had nothing last year for help. I said, who can even name the defensive end who played opposite from him anymore, right? I mean,
and Harold's not lit it up. Harold's not helped his situation. You would think that Harold, outside linebacker Harold and Simmons combination might work well. I don't think that neither one of them have peaked yet.
Right. Well, both guys had to play a ton of snaps last year because they didn't have anything else, right? Well, this year they brought in some guys that are kind of secondary type guys. With Dupree as a second outside linebacker, Danico Autry as a second pass rushing 3-tech/5 tech kind of a guy. So I kind of like what they've done there. I don't love it. I don't think the defense is going to be great. It was terrible last year. But being better, I think, will be a big help for Jeffrey Simmons, and he'll have to continue to play a lot of snaps. And so I would have him as a very slightly ahead of John Allen.
Well, but you're going Vea off the top?
No, I got him third. He's a distant third.
My bad.
I think he's a decent player. I think if you're in a deep league and you're looking at your third or fourth guy, I mean, he's a guy that I would roster. That's all. So I'm just saying something nice about him.
I'm stuck there too, just purely because of I think at the beginning of the season, that first game or when it was that what's his name, Ioannidis or whatever got hurt, they were like splitting in a real. In a rotation at like 30% or something like that in snap counts, if I remember right. Don't quote me on that. So I'm real worried him coming back into the fold does, keep fresh bodies out there. I don't see Ioannidis or whatever his name is. He was good. Why would you keep him out of the rotation? So that does make me a little bit nervous about Allen. I'm probably going Simmons. Probably out of the three, it's kind of like a pick your poison. Vita, I just can't do him just for the fact he hasn't been able to stay on the field. Can't stay healthy. He flashes, but he can't do it all the time. So I would hope Jeffrey Simmons heading into his third year, and I'm pretty sure it's his third season. I mean, they got to break out at some point. He needs a little bit more to show that he was that first round guy from a couple of years ago. Not everybody's going to come in and dominate, but he needs to show something for him a little bit better. Well, fellas, I think that's going to wrap this up for us. So I really appreciate you coming and you checking this out and playing on the clock with me. Roxanne, again, I hope prayers, thoughts for you and your family. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Craig and Tripp for, again, joining me. And I guess I'm just going to close this down if you guys don't want to add anything else.
Thanks for having us. Glad to help out, and thoughts and prayers to Roxanne and family.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. Thoughts and prayers to Roxanne and to your family, Gary, for the loss of your mother-in-law. And I hope everyone has a good Fourth. And if you want to learn some more about fantasy football, about what I'm working on, hit us up at dynastyfootballfactory.com.
Cool. Yep. And I'll be knocking on your doors again at some point to get you back on this show. So really appreciate it, guys. Good stuff. And we'll see you later.
Thanks, sir.